The ocean is pitch black. The water temperature is 2 degrees above freezing. 150 miles off the coast of Ireland, a team of U.S. Special Operations Forces is boarding the Marinera. It's a tanker, officially flying a neutral flag. But intelligence provided by GCHQ in Cheltenham, England, says otherwise. The ship is carrying sanctioned Russian oil, but more importantly, it is carrying advanced dual-use electronics destined for the missile factories of the Urals. The seizure is successful, but in Moscow, the reaction is volcanic. This isn't seen as a police action. It is seen as an act of war. And the blame isn't placed on Washington. It is placed on London. To understand why 2026 is the year the world holds its breath, we must understand a fundamental shift in the Russian psyche. For decades, the United States was the great Satan. But by late 2025, a new narrative took hold in the Russian General Staff. They call it Perfidious Albion. Russian doctrine has elevated the United Kingdom to the status of a mythological villain. They believe London is the center of gravity for Western resolve. They see the British not just as enemies, but as the provocateurs, the ones dragging a hesitant America and a sleepy Europe into conflict. This changes everything. Because if Russia believes the UK is the keystone, then their strategy becomes simple. Remove the keystone, and the NATO arch collapses. The British strategy in 2026 is deterrence by denial, convincing Russia that an attack will simply fail. But the Russian strategy is darker. It is complex strategic coercion. They know they can't land tanks on a British beach. That's suicide. Instead, they plan to attack the British mind. They want to fracture domestic consensus, freeze the population, and crash the economy, forcing London to sue for peace without a single Russian soldier setting foot on British soil. If war is politics by other means, then in 2026, war is logistics by any means. And here, the United Kingdom is blinking a red warning light. This is a standard 155mm artillery shell, unsexy, basic, and absolutely critical. Following the lessons of Ukraine, the UK ramped up production. BAE Systems opened a new facility in South Wales. They are producing 500,000 rounds a year, an 8-fold increase. It is a monumental industrial achievement, but it is not enough. Russia has transitioned to a war economy. Insulated by oil revenue and supplied by North Korean rail links, Russia is producing 4 million shells annually. The math is brutal. In a high-intensity artillery duel, for every shell a British gunner fires, a Russian battery fires 8. And it gets worse. The UK's complex weapons, the high-tech Storm Shadow and Brimstone missiles that give them the edge, are in critically short supply. Replacement timelines stretch into the late 2020s. In 2026, the British Army has a Ferrari first strike, but a bicycle supply chain. On the ground, the British Army faces a dangerous window of vulnerability known as the Transformation Gap. The plan for the future is incredible. The Challenger 3 tank, the Boxer infantry vehicle, and the Ajax Scout. But in 2026, the future isn't here yet. The Challenger 3 is still in demonstration trials. The operational fleet is the aging Challenger 2, a tank designed for the 90s, lacking the active protection systems needed to survive a modern drone-saturated battlefield. If the 3rd UK Division had to fight in Estonia today, they would be fielding a mix of prototypes and legacy platforms. Facing them is a reconstituted Russian force. They are fielding modernized T-90Ms and T-80s at a rate of 300 per year. They are not the best tanks in the world, but there are hundreds of them. And they are supported by the world's most aggressive electronic warfare complex. Systems like the Murmansk BN can blind GPS and radio across hundreds of kilometers. The British Army relies on digital precision. Russia relies on analog mass. In 2026, that is a dangerous mismatch. Look up. The air domain is no longer a sanctuary. For decades, the West owned the skies. In 2026, that dominance is gone. This is the Zircon, a hypersonic cruise missile. It travels at Mach 9. If launched from a Russian submarine in the North Sea, it can hit RAF Lossiemouth in Scotland or the intelligence hub at GCHQ in minutes. The UK's air defense, the Sky Sabre, is excellent against jets and slower missiles, but against hypersonics, it's untested. The UK is rushing to build a defense and a reciprocal strike missile called Project Nightfall, but in 2026, they are naked. Meanwhile, Russia has deployed the S-500 Prometheus. This system pushes the no-go zone for British jets hundreds of miles back. It threatens the AWACS and tanker aircraft that keep the RAF flying. It is an anti-access bubble that makes intervention in the Baltics incredibly deadly. But the most likely battlefield isn't the sky or the mud. It is the gray zone. The UK's economy hangs by a thread, literally. A network of fiber optic cables and gas pipelines on the floor of the Atlantic. Russia's Gugi Directorate operates ships like the Yantar and nuclear-powered mini-subs that can dive deeper than any NATO rescue vessel. Their mission? Sabotage. Imagine this scenario. It's February. A severe cold snap hits Britain. Suddenly, the Norwegian gas pipeline suffers an unexplained rupture. Simultaneously, 3 major data cables connecting London to New York are severed. Internet speeds crawl. The London Stock Exchange suffers a flash crash. Gas prices triple overnight. The UK has gas reserves for days, not months. The supermarket just-in-time supply chain collapses. The government activates the war book and begins rationing. Russia hasn't invaded. They haven't fired a missile, but they have brought the UK to its knees. So, how does this actually play out? Our analysts see 3 distinct scenarios for 2026. Scenario A is the stranglehold. Russia avoids Article 5. No tanks, no jets, just sabotage, cyber attacks on the national grid, and a blockade of LNG tankers in the Atlantic. The result is that the UK suffers massive economic damage. Domestic unrest forces the government to focus inward, pulling support from Ukraine. The winner is Russia. Scenario B is the JEF response, a clash in the high north. The UK activates the Joint Expeditionary Force, the Vikings of NATO. A coalition of Britain, Norway, and the Baltics strikes back at the Russian Northern Fleet. The result is the Royal Navy's superior anti-submarine warfare tech clears the Atlantic. It is a tactical victory for the UK. The winner is the UK. Scenario C is general war. Article 5 is triggered. NATO moves. The result is a grinding war of attrition. The UK runs out of ammo in weeks, but the combined economic weight of the US and Europe eventually crushes the Russian war machine if the nuclear threshold isn't crossed. And that is the ultimate variable. The UK maintains the continuous at-sea deterrent. One submarine, always on patrol, silent and waiting. But Russian doctrine allows for escalate to de-escalate. If they are losing a conventional war, they may use a small, tactical nuclear weapon against a military target, perhaps a carrier group, to shock the West into surrender. In 2026, with the S-500 system giving Moscow a false sense of security that they can intercept a retaliation, the risk of miscalculation is higher than at any point in history. So, who wins in 2026? If we judge by technology and pilot skill, the United Kingdom remains a formidable power. If we judge by mass, industrial capacity, and ruthlessness, the Russian Federation holds the cards. The truth is, a war in 2026 does not have a winner. It has a survivor. The UK's best defense isn't the Challenger tank or the F-35. It is the alliance. It is the ability to signal to Moscow that Perfidious Albion does not stand alone. Because in the modern era, you do not win wars by fighting them. You win them by proving you are too dangerous to fight.